And we've found as time goes on, obviously trends fluctuate, and the kind of way that people are engaging with and absorbing content differs as well. So it's just a case of we're constantly tweaking and changing what we've got and iterating on whether it is some videos that we've got live, whether it is some static imagery that we've got live, or whether you're looking at particularly on the likes of Meta when we're looking at carousels or anything like that, what messaging we can use across those images to portray the value proposition essentially. And that's why it's important, as I mentioned before, to always be kind of a little bit agile with the way in which you approach things and with the creatives. And I think as long as we're balancing that kind of responsible messaging alongside the acquisition goals, the platforms aren't going to penalise you in any way either.
That was actually my very next question, Josh, as well. So that's brilliant in terms of like that responsible gambling messaging, because obviously it's becoming tighter in terms of regulations. Are you finding that like a challenge to create that balance of making really, really good campaigns and creating really, really good assets, as well as that balance of, the need for responsible messaging, or are you thinking is it becoming quite natural as part of the evolution?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much second nature now. Like we've been really fortunate to work with compliance teams who understand it and get it, not only from obviously from a compliance perspective, but also tying the commerciality into there, because the last thing that you want to do is just overall people with information, but we want to be making sure that we've got those key bits across within the messaging. So obviously integrating that safer gambling messaging, highlighting kind of the game features and the bonuses, the community aspects, rather than just purely emphasising the free bets or the free spins or the big wins essentially. And I think because we've got the partnerships within these compliance teams and with the compliance teams that we work with, where they're kind of keeping us abreast of everything that's going on within the space or any changes, alongside the relationship with the platforms themselves who are imposing these changes. It kind of gives us the confidence knowing that what we're actually doing is the right way of doing things, and we've been doing that for a number of years now, because obviously we work within regulated spaces, and if we get accounts closed down or anything like that, that'll
Yeah.
reflect not only really badly on us as an agency, but also massively impact the client's P&L. And I think when we're working with particular agencies, they're working with particular clients, it's very much a case of, as fluffy as it sounds, we become an extension of them.
Yeah.
So we want autonomy and we want kinds of responsibility for that area. And if we're messing it up, we're not doing our jobs properly. And obviously the last thing that we want to do is be impacting anyone's P&L at the end of the day.
And I'm guessing as well, see, because you have these players and they are really super like community focused, they'll be on there for like, 2 to 3 hours at a time. Is there like other ways for you to like leverage that and get like sponsorship deals from other brands and create partnerships that will also kind of help you monetize that because you have such a captive audience that maybe other operators wouldn't?
Yeah, for sure. That's one of our like revenue streams we see in the future. Like as we scale up the amount of players in our tournaments, we think that's definitely a big opportunity to generate revenue. Like we've had a few like smaller gambling sites ask to do promotion with us because when we get like 750 players in a tournament, they want to work with our community to try get someone to sign up. So like as we scale up, I think that's a massive opportunity really because we're getting our players for so cheap, and we've kind of mastered the Web3 like poker space to some extent. That yeah, definitely as we scale up, I think bigger companies will want to sponsor us, particularly if we get those users numbers higher, like we get from to 10,000 unique users, 20,000, like it's going to become really attractive because these big companies they spend so much money because they're all fighting for the same market share. So if they find this new space where they can spend less money and get more signups and stuff like that, then it's going to be really attractive for them, isn't it? Like they're going to go for it.
100%. And I think, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing there is obviously, because it's a free to play platform, that the regulations aren't, they're not restrictive like they are on traditional
Exactly.
operator sites. So like the world's literally your oyster in terms of that.
Exactly. Spot on. That is one of our like one of our big things really. That it's jurisdictionless. Like you can reach any market you want. So we're getting players from all over the world coming to play with us. You don't have to go through the really in-depth licensing and expensive procedures, getting licenses in every single country or state. So it really does open way more doors. It allows a more diverse group of players to play with us, and we get players from all over the world. So that again, that even adds to the value in potential other companies wanting to sponsor you because of where we get our players from.
And I think that's a really big thing. Like I can just say, like from agency side, we get a lot of affiliates and a lot of operators, and their next challenge is to enter into the new hot market. You know, the latest hot place that we're expanding into. But with that, because of the legislation, because of the regulations, it takes months to do so much, like so much prep that I suppose you guys can kind of leapfrog a little bit, so then have that competitive edge.
Yeah, 100%. That is one of the reasons we went for this model. Like our team comes from the traditional space, like gambling wise. And like we know like there's so much like it slows you down a bit. It's expensive if you want to cover all the markets. You have to pick which licenses you
Yeah.
want, etc. Like with free to play, you're global straight away. It's a really easy way of growing your customers faster. Everyone loves free games. Everyone loves winning a bit of money for free. Like it's a really attractive model, and so we can scale it up. We are already global, but we're obviously not that big right now. But as we get bigger, like we're sucking in players from all over the world. So really attractive way of growing.
Amazing. In terms of like campaign successes with Vegas Kings and what sort of drives ROI, just from your perspective, what are the sort of like pillars really of high performing iGaming marketing campaigns?
I mean, storytelling, yes. Visual storytelling is really important as well. Like, but it depends on the goal. Like, if it's a branding campaign, then yes, visual storytelling is key. If you want to create something that is eye-catching but still has people recognize, you need to also create a lot of trust out there.
Yeah.
But for pure acquisition, it's all about conversion. I think messaging needs to be short, sharp, and laser focused on the CTA because I believe that clarity especially is more important than creativity when the goal is clicks and sign up because you need to simplify everything. You know, people today, they're not going to go through 100 million steps just to get to the goal. It needs to be as simple as possible.
And what do you think that matters in terms of like the metrics? So I've had quite a lot of conversations about, acquisition versus retention. And I think that maybe previously there was a huge focus on that acquisition, but maybe like, less on like player terms. So it was all about, getting these FTDs through the door. What's your kind of perspective on that and how do Vegas Kings align with like, the creative KPIs?
I mean, we will always align with the client's KPIs, but for best results, we need access to real data and to optimize better and do proper A/B testing. But I 100% agree with you. I think a lot of brands right now in our industry is all about acquisition, and they put millions of dollars in budgets for acquisition, but they don't really care about retention. And I think for us, and me coming from CRM and VIP, like I've worked a lot, with building these types of campaigns and making sure that, we have a VIP loyalty system or whatever. But I think honestly, the future when it comes to that is really building more with gamification. Honestly, even like maybe developing your own gamification. And that's something like whether you want to develop gamification or you're using another gamification tool and want to create a skin, I think that's something we at Vegas Skins can help with a lot, whether it's the design with the skins or the development. But yeah, I think that's the future for retention, to focus more on gamification once they're in the door.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think actually, like, it works as a really, really good sentiment analysis tool, which is not only great for the SEO benefit for the affiliate, but you're right, it gives amazing, customer feedback to the operator that then they should then go back and reevaluate and figure out, actually, if we did this, and potentially this affiliate will convert a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, your in-house testers are going to look at your product very differently than how average Joe Blogs is going to look at it on the street because they're not going to be as tech savvy or as tech smart. You're testing it knowing where everything is and knowing how the functionality should work. Someone testing it, they're just going to click every button, they're going to type everything, they're going to, do things that you don't expect, and that's what you want, and that's what you're going to get useful information out of, because if someone tests it and go, yeah, everything works, that doesn't tell me do they like the product, or that just says it works.
It's funny, in my office, I'm actually known as the worst tester of our websites when building, but I think it's the best because I'm so impatient. So I'm clicking something straight away and what's not happening.
The same. I love like a button and just seeing like what happens if I do this, but what happens if I double press it? What happens if I insert this here? No,
But I'm
I
like,
would do the
"Well,
same.
like me." I'm like, so people are exactly like me. So this is what we need. We need to navigate our website. So it's
Maybe
people.
there was a reason we got on, Sharon.
I think so. I think so. So I suppose this kind of ties into like the challenge of it being a little bit of a saturated market and how you guys kind of stay ahead of the curve and what do you implement to kind of make sure that you are ahead of the competition?
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of affiliate companies out there, we have a lot of different domains in different markets. So it's all about trying to find out what, what our niches are and trying to figure out, okay, this is what separates our products, not only from other products in the industry, but also from each other. So say in some markets where we have 2 or 3 different products, like, the UK, we've obviously got Ask Gamblers, Casino Shops Online, John Slots. So we're always trying to look, okay, so then you go, okay, John Slots, that should be a slots focused website, right? AG, they're the only ones that are going to be AG, and they have obviously their forum, the complaint service, the arbitration service.
That's really interesting. It's given you the validation you've needed now, Kate, as well. You've said it was all
Yeah.
worthwhile. So you've been attracting talent.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of like the marketing side, I'm guessing that you guys are more like B2B rather than B2C in terms of what the marketing efforts that you put out there. And iGaming can be a little bit trickier to engage from the B2B side. What sort of channels or tactics have kind of been most effective for you guys so far? Has it been like PR, award submissions? How have you kind of gone about building the brand?
When we first started, we had negligible marketing budget and we had very few customers, but it turned out that we were very good at award submissions and award wins. So even when we had very, very few, things on active customers on the ground, actually the stuff that we were doing with them, because we valued them, we needed those customers so much. So we were working very hard in ensuring that their relationship with us was super positive, because of course in payments the benefit comes from that long-term relationship. You can have a sales cycle with an operator, so you can sign a deal, but actually that is only the beginning, because we make our money when players deposit or withdraw money through those operators. So signing the deal in itself is only the beginning of the journey. So we have to be collaborative and we have to really want that operator to be a success. Building those relationships right from the start, and in many cases, as we've often done, tweaking the tech, making sure that it works for their particular use case. We would do because we needed them to be successable, but that also gave us loads of nice material for award submissions as well. So it was all good. Everybody sort of won from that. So we certainly looked, we made a, deliberate effort to look as big as we could and to shout about our successes as loudly as we could. So yes, it's award submissions, which we are still very good at. We won the one at the Cards and Payments Solution a few months ago, and there's a number of ones which we're on the finalist list for at the moment. PR generally, just to make sure that people understand Jasper and what we do. And also, as I said earlier, just a lot of events and networking and getting out there. And we have been successful, even though we're still relatively small compared to some of our larger competitors, because we are nice to work with and we are nice people. And that comes over first and foremost if you're meeting people and shaking their hand or having a drink with them or something. So that face-to-face connection is really super important.
I think as well, see from like the awards side as well. So we judge at quite a few of the awards, and what I certainly have noticed is some of like the bigger companies, they are a little bit more complacent when it comes to their awards entries. So actually, when you're looking at it from a judge, it's brilliant to see some of the smaller companies actually put a sustained level of effort into what they're inputting, and I think that's probably where Jasper's done a really, really good job.
Well, thank you. And we really would do that. Sure, sometimes they often ask very similar questions, or you might be saying, okay, here's another one, and where we're going to talk about safer gambling. But actually, it's a waste of everybody's time unless you are tailoring it to the questions or the particular line that the judges want to, are asking about. So we still, even though we've now got a good track record at doing this, and it's easy just to roll them out, but you don't want to be doing that. You wanted to make sure that you're asking the questions and you're writing in a sensible, logical way, often explaining some quite complex technology in a way that the reader is going to be able to understand and appreciate the benefits or the innovation of it. So I hope that we will continue to do this. Yeah. I mean, our positioning generally has been about positive play and wanting operators and gaming companies to see the benefits of using Jasper, not just as a payment method, but also
in terms of how the insights that we can give help them meet their regulatory obligations and deliver a great player experience, whether it's through cutting out the KYC and the paperwork, accessing bank statements, all of that sort of business. So we don't do any at the moment B2C direct marketing. So the considerations in that area are just not something that on my radar particularly. In fact, my skill set is in B2B. So when we get to that stage, we're definitely going to have to grow the team and hire the right people who understand this. But from my perspective, I'm interested in making sure that people understand why Jasper is a different open banking payments provider, and that the benefits of the insights that we can give in terms of this positive play experience and helping them meet regulatory obligations is super valuable.
I think that's the thing. Obviously, you're saying that you come from that like data and analytical background, whereas traditionally you would, like marketers, like they have that, this creative mindset. But do you think the fact that you have that allows you to apply like a different logic to it to kind of make it more successful, so that you're looking at this data and all of your choices are data driven and ROI based?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think so. So like you say, I mean, I'm not a natural marketer. I learned quite a bit about marketing just being on Routy, but it doesn't really come, I think, naturally, to me, because my mind just works on logic and numbers. It's just how I am. I think partly it's been good, and partly not as well, because I think that, again, I think that for me, you always want to have a great marketer on your side. And I wish that I had this ability, to like come up with like a story and whatnot. And I think to a certain degree I've gotten better at it, but it's just not how I am. I would describe myself as being a problem solver. So what's good is that when I have an affiliate who needs to solve a problem, I can solve it for them. That's really what it comes down to. So I don't know if it answers your question, but again, it's just a bit kind of about how I work.
But you know what? I think that's like the best thing about marketing, because that's what we're always trying to find, the problem and how a product solves that. And it sounds as if, Routy does that, and that you guys have been really, really good at displaying that message. Is there been anything since you guys have started in terms of like your own marketing or tactics that you think have worked really, really well, or has it been like mainly like relationship building and conference attendance and stuff like that?
I think so, in terms of like the best channel for us, and I'm sure it's the same for even our competitors, and I think most people in B2B, is just referral marketing is unbelievable. For us, it's like a game changer. So most clients that we got, I would say, or not most, but maybe like a good percentage of them came through referrals. So we have one client who's happy, and he tells us about another client, and that client tells us about another client, etc. And kind of having this network really helps. The reason I think why it's so valuable in affiliation is that, well, at least in, let's say, affiliate data, is that affiliates are very protective, of their data. They're very sensitive with their data. And if I go up to an affiliate and tell him, look, do you want to what's your data solution, blah, blah, and I start selling to him, he's unlikely to budge, to be honest, over it, because they don't know me. It's also a bit of a complicated topic. But having someone like, if you know an affiliate and you tell me, okay, this guy needs help with this, it just jumps over a ton of hurdles. Why? Because, okay, my friend is using it, they're doing well with it. Okay, I'm interested. And there's also this element of trust that then shows up. So for us, referral marketing, I don't think it was a surprise, but it's something which definitely worked very well. But otherwise, it's always relationship building. It's that for me makes a huge difference. Even I was speaking to a friend of mine. So I had actually reached out to him like over a year ago to kind of use Routy and whatnot. I remember I messaged him on WhatsApp, and he just did a thumbs up reaction to me and didn't speak to me again. And then somehow I ended up meeting him at a conference, and we had a chat and everything. And I had no idea who. I totally forgot about him, and same. It was the same for him.
Okay.
And we chat and we became friends and whatever.
And then I found out, okay, that he was also like, because he's an operator, but he was doing an affiliate thing as well. So, and then I found out, okay, he's doing an affiliate thing, and we started talking about Routy, and I added him on WhatsApp. So I added, and when I added him on WhatsApp, I saw my old message there, and I was like, I had already spoken to you, but like, but because it was just something cold, obviously there was like nothing from it.
Yeah.
But because now we have like a relationship and everything, they're now, I mean, they're clients of Routy, you know. So relationship building is everything, you know, in this game.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I think one of the challenges that definitely people have come to us with, like, from an agency side, is, I know, but you can't replace the human relationship part of it. And I think that what you're saying is, well, actually that won't happen, because what you'll have is a better relationship, because you have things to back that up, rather than just like a handshake at, like, you know, at a dinner or whatever. And you can utilise that not just as a tool, but as part of that overall negotiation. And
absolutely, because one of the areas that I propose in terms of potentially using AI agents is, you know, you would actually have a deal or stroke compliance agent. Now, there's nothing, you know, wrong with what I'm about to say is, but a lot of the pre-negotiations that actually go on in the affiliate marketing world are done in messaging applications that sit outside of a secure environment of the operator systems. Obviously, we all know Skype has been decommissioned, and that's been quite a challenge for a lot of us to deal with. But since that is, you know, the conversations have moved to Telegram. So therefore, you know, if they aren't monitored by both parties, that's where the, you know, potentially distrust comes in, potentially accusations around fraud or misappropriation. So AI, if you build a compliance agent that does or looks and assesses the pre-negotiations in terms of conversations before they go to the contract, before they go to sign up and the terms and conditions, I think that would smooth out a lot of these issues, because having, I say, worked on both sides, one of the bones of contention is always around, right, that's actually not what I agreed to, or that I didn't agree to actually that geo or this or that, and that's where friction comes. So I think, you know, AI can help us be a bit more transparent, and I think if certain, you know, businesses maybe move those sort of pre-negotiations onto something like a smart contract on the blockchain, then it's open for everybody to actually have a look at. So it becomes more transparent, and I think transparency is the word I would like to, you know, sort of emphasise. Not that I'm saying there's some very good affiliate companies there, agencies, platform providers, operators, you know, some very smart people. But I do see day to day that there is, you know, issues around, did I actually say that, or what was the conversation? And then obviously conversations take place in multiple platforms, and then, like, can I actually find that conversation?
You've got like 5 threads, one of them's on WhatsApp, one of them's
so using AI to, I suppose, unify that conversational data helps. So it's a central repository, and then, you know, a lot of the friction points or ambiguous conversations start to disappear or lessen.
And from that, what do you think your biggest learnings have been? So, like you said, you're talking about Fred, you're like, "We've made so many mistakes, but I'm still really proud of it." If you were like new to the space, what would you kind of say, this is like what I've learned from my journey, and this is what not to do?
I think understanding as quickly as possible what you don't know. And I say this a lot in sort of mentorship stuff and in articles and whatever. Marketing is imperfect. It's never, ever going to be perfect. And that's the biggest foible in terms of how it hangs itself up in other C-suite roles and other disciplines. Because, you know, you've got finance teams, they can be perfect. You know, ones and zeros, especially looking backwards. Looking forwards, they tend to be rather imperfect as well, but no one seems to hold them to account for forecasting. But marketing is never perfect, and every day is different. You know, product needs change, audiences change, regulations change, legislative requirements change, licensing laws change. And then the world changes with economic shift. So people can afford to spend less and do less, and they play different games. And as a marketer in gaming, you need to be trying your best to be at the front of all these changes. Some of them, if you get them wrong, you'll break the law, and the fines are incredibly bad, like GDPR, data protection and privacy, problem gambling regulations. You send an email to someone who's self-excluded, those fines are not messing around. You know, you see them in the 40, 50 million range. They're percentages of gross revenue. So that's an axe over your head. And then you're being held to account of, why aren't you pushing harder? Why aren't we getting more players in? Why aren't we getting more revenue? You know, these customers in this cohort, we should squeeze them more. They're potential VIPs. You know, they're going, you know, gentle. Let's nurture them for long term. But there's always some pressure from somewhere to make more money faster. So I'd say to people, understand that you know very little. Like, go into everything with your eyes open. Attach yourself to people that seem to know what they're talking about. Lean on those who are subject matter experts. Like, this is the great thing about, as you go through your career and get into more senior roles, you know, head of marketing, marketing director, CMO, whatever it might be, very quickly you'll have someone who is 1 year at a university, who's an SEO or ASO specialist, who will be 100 times better at that discipline than you are. Right. So your need is to understand the potential for that area, how it works, and what support you can give the team and budgets to make them excel in it. But in terms of what you're actually doing with it, they are better than you. Everyone's better than you. So I think it's critical early on to take the ego out of the equation. You know, collaborate, listen, and that leads you all the way into experimentation. Like, if you're closed-minded and think that you know best, you're dead in the water. If you're open-minded, that brings you into the acceptance that test and learn, fail fast. Those are your mantras. That's where success lies. And I think I was guilty of being quite sort of cocky when I was younger, and I thought I knew everything. And I was like, oh, Billy Big Balls and my big job title, and, you know, flashy jackets and jeans combo, whatever. Now, I don't even think it's about being humble. I absolutely unequivocally know that in most things I'm thick as pig shit. But I know what direction to take things in. I know strategically what we need to do. I understand the need to identify audiences, then build strategy, then wrap around KPIs, then build a budget against that, then do your channel strategy, your tactical plan, then roll out and test and learn. I know how to do all that bit. And you execute, and you're like, there's a very good example of this. The TV campaigns I've done that I'm most proud of, almost 100% of those were the least successful. The ones I think were rubbish, and I'm calling out one with a twerking cactus with a Mexican accent here.
I was going to ask which one.
Best performer ever. Mecca Bingo. Did it when we were in Gibraltar, shot it in London, and it was purposefully crap. You know, it was purposely designed to be standout, to be like annoying, weird, kooky, odd, whatever, because we wanted the cut through. And so it was all those things. It was funny as a result, but, you know, it was in the weird end of what the hell. That one did gangbusters. And as a marketer, as long as you're sort of like, as long as the brand's not suffering with what you're showing to the world, it's whatever works. You know, that works best. And that gets more and more true when you get into some of the performance marketing channels on mobile, like the app network and, you know, TikTok creative. When you're farming out 3,000 ad creatives on app networks and TikTok every month, the ones that work, the ones that, like, you know, you pull to the top of the pile, like the AI spits out and goes, this is it. It's very often the authentic, i.e. crap handmade rubbish that performs best. And you don't care. You're just there to get the highest performer, you know, and as long as it's not stealing imagery or Hollywood stuff that might get you sued, as long as it's original, it really doesn't matter what's in it. You're just about the performance element and, you know, wrapped in brand colors to try and make you feel as if you're keeping it within the sort of brand family space. But it's an understanding of what your role is and how little you know and how important it is to just have resilience in pushing against perceptively closed doors. They're all quite a big deal.